Welcome to my channel. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. This story happened back in the days. It's about this guy named Lee. One day, Lee was out in the forest with his older brother, Pao. They were chopping firewood, just the two of them, when Pao told Lee he needed to go back to the village for something. Lee didn't mind. He could handle the work. Pao told him not to stay too long, though. "The sun's going down soon," Pao said. "Don't mess around." Lee waved him off and kept working. As the sun dipped lower, the forest got quiet. Lee didn't notice at first, but then he realized he couldn't hear any birds or bugs, just the sound of his axe hitting wood. He decided to call it a day and head back, but as he picked up his bundle of firewood, he noticed something strange out of the corner of his eye. A hut. Now, this wasn't a normal hut. It wasn't there earlier. Lee had been working in that spot all day and he would have noticed it, but there it was, just a little way off the path. It looked old, like it hadn't been touched in years. The wooden walls were rotting and brittle, and the thatched roof was full of holes. Lee was curious, like always. Instead of walking away like a smart person, he decided to check it out. He told himself it was probably just an abandoned hut from before his time. People used to move around a lot back then, setting up new villages and leaving the old ones behind. When he got closer, he saw that the hut's door was slightly open, not wide enough to see inside, but just enough to make you wonder. He pushed it open, and the door creaked like it hadn't been moved in ages. Inside, it was dark, even though the setting sun should have lit it up a little. The air was thick and heavy, like the hut was holding on to something it shouldn't. Lee stepped inside, and that's when he noticed the smell. It was faint at first, but it hit him harder the longer he stood there. It smelled like old, wet wood and something rotten. He wrinkled his nose, but kept looking around. There wasn't much inside, just a low wooden bed in the corner and a small table with a broken clay pot on it. Then he saw the markings. On the walls, scratched into the bamboo, were these weird symbols. They weren't writing, not like anything he'd ever seen. They looked almost like claw marks, but they were too precise. Lee felt a shiver run down his body, but he still didn't leave. Instead, he walked over to the bed. There was something lying on it, covered by an old, tattered blanket. He hesitated for a second, but his curiosity got the better of him. He reached out and pulled the blanket back. It was just bones. Human bones. They were arranged neatly, like someone had put them there on purpose. That's when he heard it. A soft whisper. At first he thought it was the wind, but there was no wind. The air inside the hut was still, heavy. The whisper came again, clearer this time. It was a woman's voice, but it didn't sound right. It was too soft, too close, like she was speaking right into his ear. "Do you like my house?" Lee froze. He wanted to turn around to run, but his legs wouldn't move. The whisper came again, louder this time. "Do you like my house?" Then he felt it, a hand on his shoulder, cold, thin fingers gripping him lightly, but firmly. He finally managed to turn around, and what he saw almost made his heart stop. There was a woman standing there, but she wasn't normal. Her face was rotten. Her hair was long and tangled, hanging down past her shoulders. She was wearing a torn Hmong dress that looked like it had been dragged through mud. Lee tried to speak, but no sound came out. The woman tilted her head and smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was the kind of smile that made you feel like you were already dead. "Live here with me," she said. Her voice echoed in the small hut, even though she was right in front of him. Lee finally found the strength to move. He stumbled back, tripping over his own feet and falling onto the floor. The woman didn't move, but her smile grew wider. He scrambled to his feet and ran. He didn't even bother looking back. He ran out of the hut, through the forest, and all the way back to the village. When he got there, he was out of breath and shaking. He told the elders what he'd seen, and their faces went pale. They told him he was lucky to be alive. The hut, they said, was cursed. It was the home of a spirit, a vengeful one, and anyone who went inside was never the same. Lee didn't sleep for days after that. He kept hearing the whisper in his head, kept seeing that woman's face every time he closed his eyes. And the worst part, He could still feel her hand on his shoulder, cold and unrelenting. Some say Lee was never the same after that. He stopped going into the forest, stopped talking about what he saw. He became quiet, distant, like he was carrying some kind of burden that nobody else could see. And the hut? Nobody ever found it again. Some say it moves, appearing only to those who are unlucky enough to stumble upon it. Story 2. It started with me walking back to my village after a long day of visiting friends and another one. You know how it is. Laughing, talking, eating way too much and not thinking about the time. Before I knew it, the sun had already dipped behind the mountains and darkness was creeping in fast. I didn't bring a torch because I didn't think I'd stay out so late. So there I was, wandering the dirt path in nothing but moonlight, the air chilly and thick with the smell of grass. At first it wasn't too bad. I just kept my eyes on the road and told myself to keep moving. But after a while, something felt off. You ever get that feeling like you're being watched? Like someone or something is following you, just out of sight? That's what it felt like. My footsteps started sounding louder, like they were echoing back to me. But there was nothing around but tall grass and the occasional tree. I told myself to stop being stupid. It was just my imagination. I kept walking, but that feeling wouldn't go away. Then, out of nowhere, I saw it. There was a hut. I swear it hadn't been there before. The path I was on was one I'd taken 100 times, and I knew every curve and corner. But now, there was this old, crooked hut just sitting there, like it had grown out of the ground overnight. The roof was sagging, the walls were made of dark weathered wood, and the door was slightly open, creaking as the wind pushed it back and forth. Now, any normal person would have kept walking, but I don't know what I was thinking. Maybe I was curious, or maybe I just wasn't in my right mind. Either way, I decided to take a closer look. As I stepped off the path and into the grass, the air got colder. I could see my breath puffing out in little white clouds, even though it wasn't that cold before. My feet felt heavy, like the earth was trying to pull me down with every step I took. By the time I got to the hut, my legs were shaking, but I wasn't going to turn back now. The door was barely hanging on its hinges, and the inside was pitch black. I called out, "Hello, is anyone in there?" My voice sounded weird, like it didn't belong to me, and the silence that followed was so loud it made my ears ring. I waited a moment, and when nothing happened, I pushed the door open. It made this awful groaning sound, like it was in pain, and then I was inside. The first thing I noticed was the smell. It was a mix of damp wood, rotting leaves, and something metallic, something that made my stomach turn. The floor was covered in dirt, and there were strange marks scratched into the walls. They weren't letters or symbols I recognized, just jagged lines and spirals that seemed to go on forever. In the corner of the room, there was a table with something sitting on it. At first I thought it was just a pile of rags, but when I got closer, I realized it was a bundle of dried herbs and bones tied together with a red string. The bones were small, too small to be an animal, and I didn't want to think about where they might have come from. Then I heard it, a soft shuffling sound coming from the back of the hut. I froze. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. The sound got louder, like someone dragging their feet across the floor. "Who's there?" I said, my voice cracking. No answer. I wanted to leave, but my legs wouldn't move. It was like I was rooted to the spot, staring at the dark corner where the sound was coming from. And then I saw it. At first, it was just a shadow, but as it moved closer, I could make out the shape of a figure. It was hunched over, with long, thin arms that almost touched the ground. Its face, oh, heaven help me, its face was wrong. The eyes were too big and too bright, like glowing coals, and its mouth was stretched into this awful grin that showed rows of sharp, black teeth. It didn't make a sound as it moved, but I could feel it watching me, that grin getting wider and wider. My knees buckled, and I fell backward, landing hard on the dirt floor. The thing stopped and tilted its head like it was studying me, deciding what to do next. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. My throat was dry and my body refused to move. Then it spoke. Its voice was a low whisper, like wind through the trees, but I could understand every word. "Welcome to my house," it asked. I didn't mean to," I stammered. I just got lost." The thing laughed, a horrible wheezing sound that sent chills down my spine. "Lost?" it said. "No one comes here by accident." Before I could say anything else, it reached out one of its long arms, its fingers curling like claws. I thought it was going to grab me, but instead it pointed at the bundle on the table. "Take it," it said. I shook my head. "I don't want it," I whispered. "Take it," it hissed, louder this time. I didn't know what else to do, so I grabbed the bundle with shaking hands. The string felt sticky, and the bones rattled like they were alive. "Leave now," the thing said, "and do not come back." I didn't need to be told twice. I scrambled to my feet and ran out of that hut as fast as I could. The cold air hit me like a slap, but I didn't stop. I didn't look back. When I finally made it back to the path, I threw the bundle into the grass and kept running until I saw the lights of my village. My legs were like jelly, and my chest felt like it was on fire, but I didn't care. I just needed to get home. When I told the elders what had happened, they said the hut had been there for years, appearing and disappearing whenever it pleased. They warned me never to go near it again, and I didn't argue. To this day, I don't know what that thing was or why it let me go, but I've never forgotten its face or the sound of its voice. Every now and then, when I walk that path, I think I see the outline of the hut in the distance, but I always turn back before I get too close. Some things are better left alone, you know? Thank you for listening to this video. I'll see you in the next one.